Hey guys, welcome back. I hope you're having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first one is an entitled people story. I was so excited when my boyfriend proposed to me after 5 years of dating. We immediately started planning our dream wedding, a beautiful outdoor ceremony followed by a fancy reception at a historic venue in town. I couldn't wait to celebrate our love with all our friends and family. Well, most family. There was one person who tried to ruin it all, my fiance's mother. Let's call her Karen because she was the epitome of that entitled, "Can I speak to the manager" type. From the moment I first met her, she made it clear she didn't approve of me. Why? Because I wasn't the same race as her precious son. Karen would constantly make snide remarks about my background and refused to even try the traditional dishes I cooked. She was cold and distant, and I could never seem to win her over. When my fiancé announced our engagement, Karen freaked out. She actually told him he was making a huge mistake and that he deserved someone better suited for their family. It broke my heart, but he stood firm and made it clear we were getting married no matter what. In the months leading up to the wedding, Karen kept trying to sabotage things. She would call vendors and try to cancel arrangements, saying the groom's mother didn't approve. She'd take over guest list planning and conveniently leave off anyone from my side of the family. At one point, she even called the venue and told them the wedding was canceled. I finally had enough one day when I overheard Karen telling my fiancé that she would refuse to attend the embarrassment of a wedding. I was done playing nice. This was supposed to be the best day of my life, and she was trying to ruin it out of racism and pettiness. I drove over to Karen's house and banged on the door until she answered. As soon as she saw me standing there, she rolled her eyes. "What do you want?" she asked in an annoyed tone. "I want you to stop interfering with our wedding plans," I said angrily. "This is not just your son's big day. It's mine too, and I'm sick of you trying to ruin it." Karen scoffed. "Oh, please, I'm just trying to stop my son from making a huge mistake. He deserves better than the likes of you." I saw red at that point and got right in her face. "How dare you? I have tried to be patient and kind, but this ends now. If you keep trying to sabotage our wedding, I will make you regret it." She laughed mockingly. "Is that a threat? What exactly will you do?" I glared at her. "For starters, you are uninvited. Don't bother showing up because security will escort you right off the premises." Karen looked stunned. "You can't do that. I'm his mother." "I just did," I said coldly. "Keep pushing me and I'll make sure you never see your son or any future grandkids either." I could see the fury rising up in Karen, but I didn't give her a chance to respond. I turned and walked away, feeling empowered. I was done putting up with her nonsense. This was my wedding too, and she wasn't going to ruin it. Over the next few weeks, Karen kept trying to cause drama, but I held firm. Every time she tried to interfere, I reiterated that she wasn't welcome at the wedding. A few days before the big event, I even hired security to make sure she didn't try anything. The day finally arrived and everything looked absolutely perfect. All the people I loved most were there to celebrate our joy. Everything went off without a hitch until the reception. We were all eating dinner when I heard a commotion near the entrance. I looked over to see Karen arguing with the security guard. She was trying to force her way into the reception, making a huge scene, even as people stared and whispered. I immediately marched over, shaking with anger. "What are you doing here?" I shouted. "I told you weren't invited. You need to leave now." Karen haughtily replied, "I'm his mother and I have every right to be here. You can't keep me away from my son's wedding." By now, my fiancé and several guests had hurried over. My fiancé tried reasoning with his mom, but she refused to back down. That's when I made a decision. "Fine, you want to stay? Then you can pay for this entire wedding yourself since you clearly want to control it so much," I snapped. Karen turned white at that. I gestured around at the elegant ballroom, extravagant floral arrangements, 14-course meal. "I hope you brought your checkbook. The bill is around $75,000, I informed her. Karen's jaw dropped open, but I didn't give her a chance to respond. I nodded at the security guard, who promptly escorted a sputtering Karen out the door. She tried making a fuss, but eventually gave up when she realized I was dead serious about her paying. It was the perfect wedding gift, getting rid of Karen, and her stunt brought my fiancé and I closer together. He completely took my side and told his mother she was no longer welcome in our lives if she couldn't accept our relationship. Last I heard, Karen was complaining to anyone who would listen about the greed and disrespect I showed her that day. But I don't regret my actions one bit. I stood up for myself and saved my special day. Sometimes you have to put entitled people in their place. The look on Karen's face when I forced her to confront the cost of her ridiculous behavior was absolutely priceless. She definitely learned an expensive lesson about trying to control my wedding. This day was about celebrating love, not her racism and hate. In the end, Karen's schemes failed miserably. Justice was served along with a 14-course dinner. The next one is a pro-revenge story. I'm a high school student, and this happened to me in ninth grade. I'm sorry for any grammatical errors because English is not my first language. My teacher decided that I should compete in a math competition because she saw potential in me. I agree because she was my favorite teacher. I did not really care that much because I was kind of lazy at that time. On the day of the competition, I saw a kid, let's call him EK, boasting about how he didn't sleep because he reviewed everything. I was annoyed, but I didn't really think much of it. The results came. Sure enough, he won. But I got second place. I was shocked and happy at the same time, and so was my teacher. Everything was all sunshine and rainbows until I heard this lady EM. Good thing that girl didn't win. I was only 2 points behind. This is a math competition. My boy should win. He studied really hard for this, and a girl shouldn't beat him. I was livid. My teacher patted my back and told me to not listen to her. When they announced that I was in second place, EM started booing. This woman. I couldn't take it, so I devised a plan. This competition happened every year according to my teacher, and in grade 10 there was a regionals competition after. I swore that I had to win next year. The whole year I taught myself various math equations, and my friend helped me with everything. I spent a whole year reviewing just to prove this entitled mother wrong. The next year I entered the competition, more ready than ever. I saw the boy again. Now even his mother is boasting about how he couldn't sleep knowing that he was going to win again, and that he is excited about the regionals. Everything she said just encouraged me to do better. The exam was kinda hard, but I managed to answer most of the test questions while I heard EK said it wasn't that hard. I was not confident that I would win, but I was hoping. The announcements came and they said only one got a score of 40 and above in every grade level. The EK was smirking, thinking it was him and telling his mom regionals, here we go. But to his surprise, I won. The look of shock in EM and EK's face was worth it. They didn't utter a word. His teacher was just standing there, shocked. I gave them a big-ass smirk and went up the stage, accepting the prize and everything. When I went down the stage, I saw EM crying and saying my boy was supposed to win. He was supposed to go to the regionals. And once I heard her cries of agony, the whole year of reviewing was paid off. I got second place in the regional, and I became friends with the guy in first place. Overall, it was a great experience. And I'm glad that I don't have to see EM and EK again because there is no math competition in grade 11. The next one is a petty revenge story. I am a grocery store cashier for a very small chain in southeastern Michigan. For 6 hours a day, 4 days a week, I ring order after order of groceries. Believe me, it gets monotonous. About a week or two ago, it was a super busy day. I had been going nonstop for 2 hours with no time between customers. That's when, during the short 5-minute lull that miraculously arrived, Karen came along. I went through my usual spiel. Hi, how are you? Paper or plastic, etc., and started ringing her groceries. She had a lot of fruits and veggies, which is cool, better than some of the things I have to ring. Don't ask, seriously. And then came the grapes. Now don't get me wrong, I love grapes. Sweet, crunchy, tart, and they don't require really any prep before you can eat them. Yum! No, my issue was with the large spider that was in the bag with the grapes. I have a serious spider phobia. When I was a kid, a spider, no idea which kind, we were on a family biking trip through a nearby nature trail when it happened, bit me on the arm, and over the course of a few days, my parents just thought it was a mosquito bite at first. It swelled up into a big hard lump the size of a softball. I still vividly remember the night they finally realized that they needed to take action, and rushed me to the nearest hospital or traumatizing. Ever since, I can't see a spider without shrieking and freezing up. Any other bug in the house? No problem, I see a spider. One of my brothers has to come rescue me. So, as you can imagine, the large bag of grape spider did not go over well. I managed to mostly quell the shriek, instead letting out a strangled yelp, and jolted back from the register an offending bag, and refused to touch it again until the spider was very dead. My grocery store is one of those that still has a separate bagger job, so I wasn't alone at the register. The very nice kid who was my current bagger was kind enough to come around and remove the spider-infested sack of fruit and went to get Karen a new bag. I apologized and started to scan again, and as soon as he left, the ridicule began. It was just a spider. Why did you freak out? Are you seriously telling me that a grown-ass woman had to have a teenage boy rescue her from an icedy-bitsy spider? How pathetic. Just get over it. It was the size of a pea at best. I carried that bag all the way over here. I'm scared of spiders, and I was just fine. You shouldn't have had an issue swiping it and moving on for 5 seconds. And so on and so forth. Meanwhile, I just had to sit there and smile at her. As soon as he came back, she shut up and was a smiles and compliments for such a nice young man. That was where I decided to get petty. Now, in my store, produce is rung one of 2 ways. It might be the same everywhere, I don't know, but anyway. It is either rung up by count or by weight, so we have a scale built into the register to weigh items. Grapes are priced weight, so I went ahead and dropped the nice new spider-free bag on the scale. And while I typed in the produce code, I made sure to ever so stealthily place my thumb on that scale and apply the slightest bit of pressure, magically turning 2 lbs 7 Oz into 4 lbs 2 Oz. And at 3.99 per pound, it made a difference. Mind you, Karen had a huge order, so that 1 pound 7 ounces didn't that noticeably affect the total. But if Karen was going to mock me like that, then turn around like she'd done nothing wrong and praise my coworker, she was going to have to pay for it. And pay for it she did. The next one is a malicious compliance story. Many years ago in a previous life, I was an investigator in a robbery/homicide/vice section of the organization. I had a partner, Karen, whom I worked well with for the preceding year. I had been warned about her backstabbing behavior in other sections, but I foolishly ignored it. Leading up to the incident, she had been assigned 3 child exploitation cases that all she had to do was confirm the facts of the case, and she would have probable cause to obtain warrants. In spite of my reminders to perform the tasks, she waited until the 11th hour and then went on vacation without having completed the tasks. So, I did it for her. She could now go to a judge without further action. When she returned, she was livid and accused me of stealing her work. I said if she had done that for me, I would have bought her lunch. From that point on, our professional relationship deteriorated, and I recalled the warnings I was given about Karen that mirrored my experience. A couple of months later, our idiot supervisor mistakenly assigned Karen and I the same case. I made contact with members of the task force and spoke with the officer who originated the case. Karen overheard my last conversation and blew her stack, saying words to the effect of, "You're stealing my work again. I was assigned that case. You're trying to make me look bad." I calmly explained that the idiot supervisor assigned me the case, and I showed her the paperwork. She would have none of that, though. I offered to buy her breakfast and talk it out, but she told me to F off and added, "You do not do anything on my case without my permission. Do you understand?" So, I relinquished the case. For the next month, Karen tried to throw me under the bus for anything and everything, going into the idiot supervisor's office and complaining about me. I'd get called into the idiot supervisor's office for a 16-minute coffee break or other such nonsense. Well, a triple homicide case came down the pipe and she wanted it bad, schmoozing the idiot supervisor to give her the case. Rather than ask me personally, she had the idiot supervisor approach me to do the forensics portion. I told him that I was told not to do anything on her case without her permission, and I didn't want to get in trouble or upset her, so I was going to need permission for everything in writing before I did it. I needed permission to pack the forensic kit. Exactly how many paper bags, plastic bags, etc. How many markers, how many swabs. I would need her written permission to enter the crime scene. How many entry photos, what distance, how would I collect each piece of evidence, how would I label them. I told the idiot supervisor to make sure she understood that because I was not to do anything on her case without her permission. He scurried off and then returned a short time later and told me that she didn't want the case and that it was mine. The next one is an entitled people story. Just because I found the thought of it humorous, I'll be referring to my wife as wifey a lot from now on. Also, I know I seem like I'm posting too fast. But remember, this originally started around 10 days ago, and I've not wasted time in getting the divorce started. I also apologize for the length of this post as I could not keep it short. It really didn't take me long to find and hire a divorce lawyer. And she's mean. Yes, my lawyer is a woman, and she seems pretty good at her job. She asked me a couple of times if I was really sure I wanted to do this, but once I explained my full story to her and showed some evidence, she agreed with me when I said I wanted to start ASAP. So she got the ball rolling. Oh, this divorce is going to cost me, but I don't care. I'll rebuild my savings later as a free man. I didn't even want to rent the house I'm currently living in anyway. Wifey pushed for that. I'd have been happy staying in our old apartment we used to share until we could have actually afforded to buy a house together instead, but that's obviously never happening. I'll be paying a lot less for an apartment once we separate. Before coming home, Wifey spent some time at a cheap motel when she bailed her mother out of jail. and she even threatened to call police on me when I went to see her there. I changed the locks with my landlord's permission while wifey was still away, and sent her a text saying I'd done so. But I guess she'd not bothered to look since she never responded. So upon returning home, she ended up pounding on the door and screaming at me to let her in. I just watched her through the doorbell cam and let her keep it up for a while before she finally got on her phone to call me. I was already walking home from having had dinner with my best friend when she called, and I pointed out the text she'd not bothered to read. When I got home to let her in, she was puffy-cheeked, teary-eyed, and red with a bit of catbutt face. I had a new key ready for her, and told her if she gave a copy to her mother again, I'd be notifying our landlord, as they were already very angry she'd given her mother a key to begin with. Not sure what the landlord could have done, but it was enough to make wifey comply for the moment. Plus, I'm not going to be living here much longer anyway. My MIL still believes she did absolutely nothing wrong, and is playing victim to wifey every chance she gets. She's not allowed over anymore for obvious reasons, and I've been repeatedly called a monster by her and wifey. I've never been more glad that Emil has no friends, because then she'd be telling them all her convoluted version of the story to paint me as a villain. I just know it. She was told how much my key collection is roughly worth, and what kind of felony charges she could be facing. Though my collection was returned fully intact, so she may get the charges lessened. I'd like to hope she gets a decent punishment at least, but I'm not really counting on the system to throw the book at a manipulator like her. As I said in my previous post, wifey also paid her mother's bail and what she owed to the pawn shop with money out of our joint bank account, and then smugly told me that she wouldn't be putting the money back. Basically, that was a terrible power move, and her only way to try and put all the cost on me. I've since removed everything I had in that account, and stopped all future payments to it so she can't spend my money too. And I've changed my passwords to pretty much everything. Wifey flipped the hell out on me for it once she finally checked the account a couple days ago, because that meant that what she paid for meals, bail, and reimbursing the pawn shop was all in her money only, and now there was no more access to my funds to supplement her own with. I just ignored her tantrum and went into the home office to watch anime on my computer. She banged on the door for a while, demanding I talk to her. I just stayed quiet and put on headphones. Wifey has repeatedly demanded I drop all charges against her mother, and even said that if I really loved her, I would not only stop all this, I'd cover the cost too. When I kept refusing, she moved into the spare bedroom. She tried to kick me out of the master bedroom first, but I made it clear I'm not giving up the master bedroom when she's the one at fault. She tried to start taking my stuff out, but I just blocked her while pointing my finger at her face and said, "No," like I was talking to a dog. She ended up crying and saying I was demeaning her, but I didn't care. Then, for some more deception on her part, she admitted to me out of pure spite that until this mess had started, she'd been planning on letting her mother come live with us full-time soon because of the state of her hoarder house. She boasted that she was just going to move her in while I was at work. I told her we were supposed to be equal partners before this all happened, and I was sick of her unilateral decision-making, and as long as I'm paying 50% of the lease, her mother will not be living here. And if she tried, I'd throw all her mother's stuff out immediately. Wifey looked like she wanted to explode, and stormed off to have a drink and a loud phone call with her mother in the kitchen. I just started removing her stuff from the master bedroom, and left it in the other room for her. I've put a new lock on the door to the master bedroom too. I had wifey served at her job, which she said really embarrassed her in front of her colleagues, and she flipped out on me again once she got home. Apparently she didn't take my threats of divorce seriously until those papers were actually in her hands. She said I couldn't do this, but I told her I was done. She made it more than clear where she stands. I told her I learned a rather interesting phrase online. When people show you who they really are, believe them. And she's clearly shown me who she really is. And it's not the woman I fell in love with. That woman disappeared and got replaced with an entitled mommy's girl who refuses to act her age right after we got married, which makes it pretty obvious she did that intentionally. At this point, I don't think she ever loved me. Just my wallet. I can't stay married to a woman who conned me into marrying her. Then she started screaming at me that she wasn't a gold digger. So I asked her if she'd have been inclined to stay married to me if I'd done the all same things to her. She tried to deny it at first, then looked around like she was trying to find a better answer. Then she just gaslit to deflect as usual. But I had none of it. I told her right then and there that I'm not renewing the lease on the house with her because I don't want to live with a petulant woman child I can't trust. And if she wants to keep the house, she can go ahead and start a new lease to move her mother in once I'm gone. Finally, that's when the real waterworks started. She said I was destroying our family, and I said, "What family?" and pointed out how we don't have kids, and her mother is more important to her than me. We have no family. Then I just walked away. She loudly cried in the living room for hours, but I ignored her. Now she's giving me the hardcore silent treatment and won't look me in the eyes. I'm actually enjoying it, which just seems to make her angrier. As an added bonus, I warned my current landlord about wifey wanting to move her mother in. I gave him all the details I had about MIL, the state of her hoarder house, and how much of a deceptive mommy's girl wifey is, and warned him that if he let my MIL live in any property he owns, she would turn it into an utter disaster. He thanked me for telling him, and is now not going to let wifey renew the lease on her own if she tries. He'll be advertising the property soon. Wifely has no idea yet, and likely would have only just barely been able to afford the house with her mother's help anyway. One more thing. Yesterday someone warned me to take my name off the joint bank account entirely so I would not be on the hook for any overdraft. I took that to heart and went to the bank to get it done. Only took a few minutes to do it, and the bank is 10 minutes away by car. All good now. I've been working from home lately, so I had the time. All statements from the account were already printed and given to my lawyer too, so I can wash my hands of it. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you again tomorrow.